that the globe is in conflicts. Ukraine war, Israel Hamas war, South China Sea tensions, problems in North Africa or the Sahel portion of North Africa. AFPAC region is in problems on our west, and Myanmar is in problems on our east. We all know that. I mean, it's been now there anything between 1 to 3 years. You go further, look at the West Asia crisis. Israel, Hamas, Hezbollah, Syria, they're at daggers drawn with each other. Iran has now gone ballistic. We'll see where it goes. And USA and Houthis are fighting it out in the Red Sea. But importantly, the war is coming nearer to us on our western front. It is not only along Pakistan, further down south. Okay. Now, this is the reality today. What am I going to speak of? In this context, I want to talk to you about the new 2.5 front war, or the new 2.5 front which confronts India. We all know that the traditional 2.5 front, 2.5 front, it was first enunciated by General Deepak Kapoor, or ex-Chief of Army Staff, long back. He spoke of a northern front against China. He spoke of a Pakistan front again. And half a front, which is basically insurgencies in Kashmir and the northeast. But from when he spoke to now, a whole lot of things have changed. Successive chiefs have stressed that India needs to be prepared for 2.5 wars, or 2.5 front confrontation. So, the time has come, in the backdrop of conflicts coming nearer onto our west. Is there a need to change this perception? I feel so, for many reasons. But let me go step by step. Okay, what was this, the Northern Front at that time? Why was the Northern Front a huge problem for us then? If you see, in the Northern Front, till about 2020, our infrastructure differential was huge. China had roads well up to Tibet, almost up to the LAC. They could bring equipment where they wanted. They could loaf around where they wanted. And they could dominate the LAC with their infrastructure, through their infrastructure, quite a bit. On the other hand, we were always worried whether we could do that. We almost didn't do it in Eastern Ladakh. Why? We didn't have infrastructure. So we kept our troops on the top. The Chinese never kept troops on the top. The Chinese troops were always far behind. They relied on their mobility. They relied on their infrastructure to put pressure on the LAC, which they did very successfully in 2020. But then, from then to now, things have changed. And how have they changed? Our infrastructure and our preparation and the number of troops we have on the LAC has increased. Our ability to react on the LAC has increased. We have closed the gap of infrastructure. Our infrastructure might not be as good, but we are in a position to take troops there and sustain them to do what is required to be done. That gap we have closed. Whether we have closed the gap to dominate the LAC is a question mark. But that's a work in progress. It will continue. Now, specifically, if you look at it, you look at all these star marks along the LAC. These are the places where action has taken place in the past 3 years. The top two are Depsang and Demchok, where even now we are in a face-to-face situation. Further, a little to the south, you have these two places in the central sector where it has come to light that the Chinese have tried something and we have repulsed them. And we have also done some cross-border or trans-LAC operations. It indicates that you're able to go across at a point where we want to do. It also indicates that the Chinese are not able to make headway. And this is feasible because of the infrastructure change or orientation to the LAC of our troops, commanders, everyone, training, and so on and so forth. The same thing. They tried it in Doklam, they've been stopped. They've tried two, three other places in uh, Siliguri or rather in Sikkim, they've been repulsed. Same thing has happened in Yangtze and Tawang sector. So if you see the past 3 years, the LAC in some manner has solidified. Gone are the days when I think India and its armed forces were are worried that the Chinese will make a great invasion. We now know they can't. On the other hand, there is this newfound issue which also has surfaced in General Naramne's book in some form that we have the capability to go across. That will have two effects on the LAC. The first effect on the LAC is that China, you know, will be detected far more in advance if they come approach the LAC. Now you're manning it in strength with the capability of being able to reach there in time. So the issue of surprise is gone. Okay. So if the issue is of surprise is gone, they can't make headway because you have the mobility to place your troops where you want on the LAC and stop them or go across. That you've given them that thing that we will do it. Indication. So where does it leave you? Where does it leave the Chinese? Where does it leave the LAC? So this front has changed. You have to start thinking differently for this front. Earlier, our thought process for this front was how to defend this front. But this front today requires something, uh, a different approach. Are we talking of different deterrents along this front? Or are you talking of being offensive on this front? Depending on how you prepare for this front, your posture will evolve accordingly. And how you prepare for this front depends on what capacities we build. And what capacities we build depends on how much we can invest, we can put our systems through to make things happen on ground. I'm bringing this up just before the budget. In 2 days, the budget will be announced. It will tell us what we are doing about this. Very important, right? So the northern front has changed. The front remains. There's no change in the front. But the northern front, the threat from this front And the kind of threat you can pose to the Chinese has changed. And if you want to make further changes and protect the sovereignty and integrity of our nation, we have to think differently for this front. So, this is the first front. Let's look at the Pakistan front. Earlier, the Pakistan front was what was there in that smaller dotted circle, just the border, Pakistan and its border. But things have changed. In the 3 to 4 years which have passed, Pakistan is no more a strong state. Its economy has gone. Politically, it is in a disarray. TTP, Taliban, and other non state actors are not its best friends anymore. It has strife on the western border. In essence, which we've spoken of off and on, the no, the northern, I would say, Pakistan has three active fronts: Iran, Afghanistan, and India. India is its most peaceful front. In this kind of condition, we need to change our tactics against Pakistan. But what has Pakistan been doing? Now, Pakistan has expanded its activities into the Arabian Sea. Pakistan is now an active member of the Russia, China, Pakistan, Iran, Gathbandhan. Will it become a Mahagathbandhan? We'll see. But definitely, action is taking place there. Simultaneously, there is also the action by the Houthis, Somalis, or from Somalia, pirates, and the Red Sea spillover taking place. After all, yesterday one of our ships, INS Vishakhapatnam, went and intervened there to help someone. Before this, we foiled a hijack attempt. This side of the Gulf of Eden, it is the Indian Navy which is operating. The other side of the Gulf of Eden, in Red Sea, it is the US Navy which is operating, and the British Navy. There's no fifth Navy operating here. So that whole story has expanded. So this front needs a redo. It needs to be uh, rethought of completely. And this rethought has to be a joint services effort, a theaterized effort. It is no more the case that when you look at the Western theater, it is only Pakistan. When you look at the Western theater today, in my way of looking at it, you need to look at the Red Sea, you'll need to look at the North Arabian Sea and the activity and the Gulf. So, if ever we have a Western Theatre Command, which would be our second front, you have to relook this. Are we thinking this way? Or are our theatre commands going to evolve on that old thing? One northeastern front, one or the one northern front, one western front, and one maritime front. That's outdated thinking, and that's not being in sync with reality. And as India's power rises, you have to start thinking of the fronts right up to the Arabian Peninsula and the Horn of Africa. Purists of the naval system will say, oh, all the seas are global commons. Anyone can go there. You can't draw a line in the sea. I agree with it. Anyone can go anywhere he wants. I agree with it. But at the end of the sea, there's land. And people of that land could be inimical or friendly with you. So you have to either deter them, attack them, or those who are friendly with you, protect them. The time has now come for us to think differently. If tomorrow you want to be a net security provider in the Indian Ocean region, we keep talking of it. So if you talk of it, walk the talk. Are we walking the talk? We'll again know day after tomorrow when the budget comes out. I'll get back to you the day the budget comes out and see, analyze what is the gap between what we are talking and what we are doing based on hard figures in the budget. Okay, now where does this half a front go? There's still half a front. We all know that J&K is no more the front that it is, right? So J&K is really no front. But will violent incidents stop there? They won't. They'll continue. And whatever happens as part of the Western Front, you deal it with through Pakistan. It's no more that hardcore problems which we had earlier. That's changed forever. And by the end of the year, if elections are held, which will be held, and things go well, that front would have vanished. Okay. Now let's look at the Northeast. The Northeast is generally stable. Whatever is happening in Myanmar, not Myanmar, whatever is happening in Manipur, is largely an internal political problem. It is not a it's a security problem due to internal politics. It's not a defense related problem. It has its connections. It's not. That can't be a front. Your own state can't be a front. If tomorrow you can get to a political settlement between the Meiteis and the Cookies, this front vanishes. And whatever is happening in Myanmar, a spillover here, is also not a front. You're not at war with them. I don't perceive great problems from these people. But what is of interest of this half a front is something different. That is why the new half front, I call it, consists of the situation in Bangladesh and Myanmar and in the North Bengal or northern part of the right. So this is something which we have to look at because today you have a government in Bangladesh which is towards you, but tomorrow the situation might not change because I think after the last election, certain things have changed permanently in Bangladesh. And Myanmar, there are no signs of abating, and the civil war will continue because it's all drugs. And now, this front, which is based on Bangladesh and Myanmar, will give us problems for drugs. It will give us problems through the Chinese. It will also give us the problems of spillover effects. Add to this the situation developing in Maldives. And this Maldives situation is not going to run away. It's not going to run away. We should be very clear about it. China has got its grip on this today after 5 years. It will not let go. Or at least it will not allow it to be gone. So you have to do something. So you need a different. So you're looking at a new two and a half front situation which confronts India. Is this new two and a half front situation sacrosanct? No. Someone might say, no, this is a three front situation. I have no problem. But definitely today in this update, what have I clarified to you or attempted to put across to you? That the old two and a half front scenario has changed forever. We have to start thinking of a new two and a half front scenario or a three front scenario, which we need a debate. Give it to your friends. Give this video to your friends. Let them see. Let them think. It's a new thought process. The most difficult thing about putting a new thought process in anyone's head is not that they will accept the new thought process, but it is in kicking out the old thought process. It will never go. Their people are conditioned to the old thought process, whereas a new paradigm is emerging in front of us. You can't be a great power with the old paradigm of threat. Like you want to move towards Atmanirbharta, so you have to confront this new situation. If not, will be wrong. Or preparation will be wrong, or strategies will be wrong, or doctrines will be wrong. I'm not saying that this is something new which, you know, was not thought of. These threats existed, but I think we need to think differently to handle them. Especially in the, once the maritime issue comes up, your diplomacy has to kick in. Are we prepared for that? Today I heard something very nice. There was this expert who said diplomacy needs a military platform. Diplomacy won't function if it does not have a military platform. Unless your military platform is strong and it creates the conditions geopolitically, regionally, nationally, or internally, diplomacy will not work. Diplomacy will not have a leg to stand on. So, in this context, it is important for us to re examine these fronts, to re examine our construct, or defense construct, or security construct, and think anew. I'll be more than happy to receive criticism on this or your opinion, whether I'm right or wrong. But whether I'm right or wrong is not the point. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. Because at the end of the day, whatever comes out of this discussion, India should be right. And I want India to be right. And that is why I thought, let me put it out. Because for many people, the understanding of this new uh, security paradigm which we are getting into has not been enunciated. And if you are working on an old paradigm, your capability building also will be on an old paradigm. We need to think.